When we talk about innovation, we often describe it as an evolutionary process. This idea of doing what we did last year a little bit more effectively in a new or an invigorated way, trying to freshen things up, this idea of continuous improvement. And this evolutionary approach often invokes notions of Darwinism. And yet, while evolutionary innovation has its place, can I suggest in the years to come, it is not going to be sufficient. What we are going to need is revolutionary change, revolutionary innovation, where we fundamentally rethink the very basic assumptions of how we offer value, the way we extract value as businesses. In this age of disruption, only revolutionary innovation will keep you at the cutting edge. I love the insight from the former head of business at San Francisco University, a guy named Oren Harari, who said this. He said, "Remember, the electric light never came from the continuous improvement of candles." Isn't that great? I love how profoundly true that insight is. I mean, it didn't matter how good we got at making candles, how efficient they were, how bright they were, there came a point where a complete fundamental rethink of how we made light was required. And yet it is so difficult at times to do this. As businesses, as industries, we become so focused on what has worked. Our paradigms become fixed on what's possible, and that possible becomes informed by the past. And shifting our mindset, having a revolutionary new approach to the way we do things, is not something that comes naturally to most of us. I mean, look at it, a good example of the danger of what happens when a business gets fixed in a paradigm that is no longer fit for the future. An evolutionary change wasn't good enough. And the example of Kodak really stands out. You know, it's interesting, over the years, Kodak has copped a lot of criticism for missing the boat with digital photography. And the interesting thing is, of course, they invented most of the digital photography that we used. Most of the patents Kodak owned. They invented the stuff. And yet the challenge for them was to fully embrace digital photography was going to be a revolutionary step. I mean, they were so invested in film. Not only had they mentally become a film company and they relied on film for their income, but they had contractual obligations with a network of producers, resellers around the world for whom they were locked into this film business. It would have been a significant shift, a huge threat to move away from film. And yet that was the very revolutionary change that was required for Kodak to stay relevant. Now, they did try a few things to embrace digital while still holding on to the world of film. A good example is the example of the Kodak Advantix preview camera, which they released in the late 1990s. They spent a whole pile of money developing this camera. It was still a film camera. The idea was it was a hybrid. So you would take photos, you could see a preview of the photo on the back of the camera, and then decide how many copies of it you wanted to print. And it was an admirable attempt, a worthy attempt at trying to embrace the digital age, but all it was trying to plug something new onto something old. A term I often refer to as paving the cattle track, by simply taking something that is dated and old and putting something new on top. Whereas what was required was a fundamental, radical rethink. And while it's easy to look at Kodak and businesses like them and say, well, you know, they were unwilling to take the revolutionary step and they paid the price, the reality is even the best businesses struggle to be revolutionary in their approach to innovation. And the example of Apple stands out. Now, I've often referred to the fact that Apple as a business got stuck in a paradigm of product ownership, where the notion was, even though they had disrupted the whole music world by setting up iTunes, the fixed paradigm was still that you, as the music listener, had to own the music you were enjoying. And yet when Pandora and Spotify came onto the market with streaming services, for a long while, Apple held back because their paradigm was fixed. They were getting better and better in an evolutionary way at making their iTunes platform a fresh, vibrant approach to listening to music. Meanwhile, a revolutionary competitor like Pandora or Spotify was changing the game. And it took Apple a fair while to shift their paradigm to really embrace music streaming. By the time they did, they were in catch-up mode. So can I suggest in the years to come, look at the example of Apple and Kodak and so many other brands. Evolutionary innovation may have its place, but it is not going to be enough if you're going to stay at the cutting edge in an age of disruption. Only revolutionary change will do that.